is Face the State.
Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. I'm Shannon Newth. Welcome to this edition of Face the State. Today, we're talking higher education. The University of Great Falls is a four-year private Catholic university. For 12 years, Eugene McAllister served the institution as president. He's credited with increasing enrollment, growing the residential campus environment, and strengthening the athletic department. McAllister announced his retirement in July of 2015. In the meantime, Sister Lucille Dean served as interim university president, and now new leadership is in place. Dr. Anthony Eretz assumed the role of University of Great Falls president a few weeks ago on July 1st. He becomes the 9th seated UGF president, bringing more than 3 decades of academic experience to his new role. Beyond his time in higher education, he's a retired lieutenant colonel of the United States Air Force. His time in academia includes serving as academic vice president at Christian Brothers University and a faculty member at the United States Air Force Academy. Eretz also spent 7 years at Cincinnati's Mount St. Joseph University, launching the Center for Ethical Leadership and created a career preparedness program. His partnership with Education at Work helps students manage the cost of tuition. Under his tenure, several new majors, including graduate and doctorate degrees in nursing and business, were added, and the school underwent a transition from a college to a university. And now he's hoping to bring all of that experience and passion for community to Great Falls.
The important thing, I think, in the future for Great Falls and UGF is discover how they can partner together to benefit each other, because a university can be a tremendous economic driver for a community. And I'm looking forward to talking to the people and getting to know the people in the local community, really to see how UGF and the city of Great Falls can work together to benefit each other.
All right, and today we meet the new president and talk with him further about his vision for the University of Great Falls, community involvement, and his hope for higher education. Dr. Anthony Eretzs, thank you for being here and joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and welcome to Great Falls, to Montana. So first, when I just ask you how your first few weeks have been here in Great Falls.
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's been a lot exciting. We've been welcomed with open hearts into the community, so we're really glad we're here.
Okay, so let's get a little bit of personal background on you. Okay. Tell me a little bit about your family and how you ended up coming to Great Falls.
Okay, I have my wife, Terry. We've been married for over 30 years, and I have 3 boys. My oldest is in the Air Force, and 2 of them have moved with us. They want to explore Montana with us. And the reason we decided to come, there's really 3 reasons. Actually, I looked at UGF years ago when I was retiring from the Air Force. We wanted to stay in the West, and I had made a decision I wanted to work in Catholic higher ed. And there are very few Catholic higher education institutions in the Rocky Mountain region. So. But none of them had jobs at the time, so that's how I ended up in Memphis. So I had actually looked at UGF at the time and was excited about the possibility of staying in the Rocky Mountain region. And the other reason is it is a Catholic institution. I'm a lifelong Catholic and very passionate about the Catholic intellectual tradition and what that can offer students of any faith or of any background in terms of their intellectual growth and development. But the most exciting thing, a lot of people don't know, we're actually affiliated with Providence St. Joseph Health, which is the 3rd largest nonprofit healthcare system in the country. And they're all over the West Coast. And one of the opportunities with the new president, they've decided that they want to invest in the University of Great Falls and grow our programs to help them supply the talent that they're going to need going into the future as a healthcare system. So the wonderful opportunity lies ahead for UGF in growth.
Great, and we'll come back to that a little bit more, both the faith aspect and some of the health professional aspects of that. But if you look on billboards around Great Falls, any type of marketing for UGF, you see this theme called Uncommon Courage. It's sort of a mission, a catchphrase for UGF. When you hear that, what does that mean to you? What do you hope it means to your prospective students? Well,
that's actually something that attracted me to UGF too, because in my background, I've been a very passionate supporter of the development of ethical leaders. Because when I look at leadership failures and other economic failures, when you get at the core, it's usually a failure of ethics. And so I've often taught about having the moral courage to do the right thing for the right reasons, because I think a lot of people know what the right thing to do is, but the pressures of the situation to the contrary force them to act otherwise. I think developing the moral courage to do the right thing and the right reasons in spite of pressures of the contrary is a virtue that our society isn't developing in our youth today. So that's the reason I'm in Catholic higher education, to develop that moral courage in students so that when they graduate, they go out and do the right thing and help make the world a better place.
Sure, it's not a sheltered type of atmosphere. It's one
Right.
that addresses those questions. So let's talk a little bit more about the role, the integration of the Catholic faith, the moral code there that comes from this private institution. How is that integrated into the educational experience so it differentiates itself from, say, a public institution?
Right. Exactly. Obviously, as a faith-based institution, God is part of the equation. We can have conversations on our campus that sometimes secular institutions aren't allowed to have today. But I think the Catholic intellectual tradition, it dates back centuries. And in fact, if you look at it closely, the concept of a university actually came from the Catholic Church. A lot of people describe it as a place where the church did its thinking. And it's pretty synonymous with the Western intellectual tradition. It's the idea that you look at the big questions, the fundamental questions, the first principles of what it takes to create a just and fair society. So you begin with what does it mean to be human? What are our moral and ethical obligations to each other, and then how do those translate into how do we create a fair and just society where all people that belong to society can flourish.
And that's something that can be, those conversations introduced, I imagine, in any type of degree people are pursuing, whether that's a science degree, English degree, things like that. Those are conversations that are being had within the classroom.
It's part of our liberal arts core curriculum at UGF.
Sure. Something we heard from you, and we saw you there, that was an interview from back in May that we saw just a few minutes ago when on one of your visits to Great Falls. You talk about the integration of community, making that a partnership there. Obviously just been in Great Falls a few weeks, but how do you see the role of UGF within Great Falls as a community as a whole, and how do you want to help integrate that more, make it more of a partnership between community and university?
Obviously, I'm new to Great Falls, but I know they have a Great Falls Development Authority, and I know they're working hard to diversify the economy. And if you look at cities that have been successful at that, what they've done, they've partnered with their local education, higher education institutions in developing the talented workforce that companies look for when they want to relocate or start in an area. So it's pretty critical that a community partners not only with their community colleges in the area, but their local universities in ways that can attract and diversify and actually expand companies that are already in the Great Falls area.
And one of the things that you're also talking about here is finding the jobs, meeting the needs of the community that the university is in, the state that the university is in, by providing more jobs. Montana's had a push for this STEM-related education at the high school levels. How does that translate to what University of Great Falls is doing?
Obviously, STEM is a critical need for our country to move forward. It's what it's driven our current economy, and because of the fewer kids in the pipeline, we need to increase the enrollment we have in STEM fields. But also you couple that, the one thing I worry about is we're losing sight of the importance of the liberal arts, the humanities majors that keep us aware of what the fundamental human dimensions of this economy that we need to pay attention to. So we don't want everybody to be a STEM major, but we do want to have the humanities majors right at the table and figuring out, where is all this going to take us as a country? And those are important conversations that we need to learn how to have.
And those humanity majors, maybe for some who aren't sure what would fit into that category, what do you include within those humanity type of degrees or majors?
History and English and sort of the traditional ones that aren't math, science, and engineering. So there's a broad spectrum, but the idea is that actually a lot of companies like to hire those type of majors because they bring a different type of thinking to the table and allows a company or an institution to be more creative in its thinking as it deals with the challenges that they deal with on a daily basis.
Sure. We also mentioned earlier, of course, veteran of the military, the Air Force branch, which of course many in Great Falls and all across the state are very familiar with. Great Falls being an Air Force and military town with Malmstrom Air Force Base here. What is the connection or relationship right now between UGF and Malmstrom, and what do you hope to do with that in bringing your military background to this military town?
Obviously, I have a soft spot for veterans,
sure.
and we do have some of the current active duty that are taking courses on campus, and a lot of the veterans that get out of the military but stay in the local area. One nice thing about a military experience is you accumulate some great tuition and educational benefits that you can use when you leave the military. So I want to be proud of UGF and partner not only with the active duty but with the veterans of the local military community and helping them achieve their educational goals. Right now our partnership, I don't think we have any formal partnerships with the base, but I would like to, that's one of the things I'd like to look at going forward is how can we partner with the base to make sure they're developing the talented workforce that they need to protect and defend our country.
Sure. So your role that we just talked about, you just came off 7 years of serving as president. Tell us a little bit about that experience that you had over in the Cincinnati area.
Oh, it's interesting being president of a small institution in today's economy. The challenges are numerous. Unless you have a large billion-dollar endowment, most small private institutions are really struggling in today's economy because our families aren't having the same numbers of children that they used to have. So the pipeline of students is getting smaller. So everybody's competing over a fewer number of students. So like any business, we're having to get out there and differentiate ourselves to attract more students to your campus. And it is a significant challenge. And then also with the tuition affordability issue, private institutions can be more expensive. They don't have to be, but they can be at least perceived to be more expensive than the public institutions that may be in the area.
And one of the things that we know is your work with, and your prior role here before coming to Great Falls, really working with students to find work study opportunities, and trying to make college more affordable for students and families. What are some of the ways that you did that there? And then to follow up on that, are you hoping to bring a similar approach to UGF in your role here?
Well, I think one of the things that colleges don't always do well today, they do well and develop students intellectually, but maybe not necessarily for the real world of work, for that first career job they have when they graduate. So what we did at my previous institution, it was a part of a broad program, is we really took the Career Center on campus and put it front and center of the student experience. But a part of that was co-ops and internships. We radically expanded the number of work opportunities available to students because I think that's the model going forward. For a family to be able to afford to send their son or daughter off to college for 4 years and not have to work to help pay their way through school, I think is an option that is only available to those who have means to do that. I think for most families, the students are going to have to help by working and helping pay the bills as they go through college. So I think going forward, UGF, I'm really looking forward to taking our co-op and internship program and radically expanding the opportunities for our students to either work at home if they're not in the area or to find co-ops and internships in the Great Falls area. And it also, for industries in the area, it's a great way to identify talent while they're still in school. And I'm hoping corporations can partner with us and actually help students with tuition. When they identify someone in a co-op and internship that they'd like to hire that they see could be a great contributor to the corporation, they would help that student with their tuition before they graduate.
And something that Great Falls is passionate about and working towards right now, many leaders in the community are trying to retain and attract those young professionals to either stay or come back to Great Falls if they've grown up here. Exactly. I also hear as you're talking that could be a way that UGF can help contribute to that mission as well.
Exactly. The same things that attract college students attract young professionals. So creating not only a family life but a social life and an outdoor life, which Montana has a wealth of, to attract the younger generation, the young professionals, a place where they see themselves putting down their roots and raising a family.
It's something we can see that partnership moving forward here for the University of Great Falls. I want to talk now about the role of University of Great Falls within Montana higher education as a whole. It's one of just a handful of private institutions within the state that don't receive any type of federal assistance, not related with the public school system at all. What are you hoping for as far as a draw? I mean, University of Great Falls has students from all over the country, all over the world. What are you hoping for prospective students moving forward? Is this a more of a Montana-based school? Do you want to further outreach? What's your vision?
One of the things about University of Great Falls that very few people know about is we're part of Providence and St. Joseph Health, which just merged this month. And they have over 120,000 employees and 50 hospitals from Anchorage, Alaska to Los Angeles to Texas to Montana. Those are a lot of families with sons and daughters. So what we're hoping to do is recruit from that sector of families. We offer families who work for Providence Health a 50% discount on our tuition. So we're hoping to attract more to Montana. And I hope some of those stay. They decide to stay because they like the climate and the outdoor experiences that Montana offers. And we can, again, through that pipeline, help Montana develop the talent that it needs to be successful going forward.
Sure. And let's go ahead and talk about some of the degrees and the focus of that. We've heard a little bit about this medical background, and obviously Great Falls benefits healthcare, the Great Falls Clinic, two major areas for healthcare. But nursing degrees, those health degrees, science degrees, obviously a big focus right now for a lot of institutions.
Right.
When we look at Great Falls as a whole, we see a lot of medical opportunities, at least when it comes to internships, things like that, based on some of those bigger industries within the town itself. What are some of the degrees that you see for UGF that's attracting students so far, and moving forward, do you see that continuing to grow?
Yeah, you know, healthcare is the largest growing economic sector of the economy right now. The baby boomers are retiring and they need more healthcare. So it's where they're growing at a 20% clip nationwide. So obviously it's interesting that UGF hasn't had a lot of healthcare programs in the past, and we've recently started RN to BSN completion program for Providence employees, and hiring. My boss is Rocket Hockman, the CEO of Providence St. Joe's Health, and he's sort of, my directions are to grow healthcare programs.
Sure.
And so we're going to be growing in that area. And in terms of the state of Montana, what I'm looking for are partnerships. In today's environment, it's very hard to go alone and do anything these days. So partnerships are key for any institution be successful going forward, or any corporation or any political entity. Everybody has to reach out and help each other be successful in the future. There's only 3 private institutions in Montana, so I'm hoping to reach out to, and we've already started talking briefly with Rocky Mountain College and Carroll College to see how we might be able to work together to help each other and grow enrollments and benefit the local region.
And maybe you can give us just a little insight, a little look into how those partnerships are formed when you're looking at forging new relationships within a community, especially being new to the community itself. How do you start that? How do you go about that?
Well, in the end, you have a partnership when you're solving problems for each other. So it's generally sitting down and say, what are your challenges? How can we help? In higher education, our challenge is always enrollment. We need more students. And then, so it's usually a talent. They have a talent problem, whether they can't attract the talent or they're having trouble developing their current employees in a way that they'd like to benefit the company in the long run. So actually sitting down with somebody and how you can help each other and develop what we call a win-win situation. If it's not a win-win, it's usually not a good partnership.
Sure.
And it's usually not successful. So you try to figure out, it's just 2 people getting together or 2 companies getting together and say, how can we help each other?
That mutual understanding and willingness to try to grow in both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about life on campus itself at UGF for students, for faculty. Within the last 5-7 years, we've seen structural growth there. We've seen new dorms that have been built. What does that look like moving forward? Are we going to expect to see more buildings popping up around campus, or what is your hope for that? Okay.
In fact, in 15 years, I hope you won't even recognize the campus. Right now we're going through a master planning process to figure out what that future campus looks like. So there will be new buildings. We hope to grow enrollment, which will hopefully increase the economic benefit to the Great Falls area by recruiting from those students I mentioned earlier. The more students we can bring to our local campus, the more money they spend in the local economy.
Right.
So that's one indirect way that we can benefit Great Falls. And so we're hoping to invest heavily in the infrastructure of the campus going forward. And Providence has said that they're there to help.
Okay.
So we're going to raise money with them and hopefully get funding for Providence St. Joseph Health to help do some of these things. But there will be more to come. That campus is going to transform itself.
Okay. And for anybody who's in the Great Falls area who is driven by UGF, the growth of the dorms actually on campus, we've seen UGF buying up more properties right around campus to turn into some student housing as well. So we've already seen that transformation in little ways here over the last couple of years.
Exactly. As we grow, we're going to need more housing, but also we're going to need more facilities. So we'll be growing it. And one of the things I'd like to do is make the campus a destination for the Great Falls community. A healthy community usually partners with the university in terms of the arts and meeting spaces and gathering spaces, and intellectual learning is a lifelong process. So we want to engage the community in other ways where people who aren't necessarily going to college or sending somebody to college, that they can work with us and benefit from our presence in town.
Sure. Going off of that made me think more of the graduate degrees that are offered. I know UGF also offers online education as well. How is that program going? Is that something you see increased demand for as far as offering online opportunities for both undergrad and graduate programs?
People are busy today, so If they're in the local area, what I see more of in the future are what I would call hybrid programs, which is a combination of online and classroom experience. I'm a big fan that you don't want to get rid of the classroom.
Right.
But for students who don't live in the area, then obviously you're looking at online programs. But there's ways with today's technology that you can create a pretty engaging experience online. But because of Providence being so distributed around the country, we will be significantly increasing our online programs, and hopefully those will be available to anybody in this region who would like to take them. A lot of them will be in the graduate area. Most of them will be concentrated out though on the healthcare area. But right now we do have a master's in organizational leadership, which benefits anybody in any profession. I'm a big fan, obviously, with my military background, of leadership development, helping people understand what it means to be a leader and be more proactive in your approach to life than reactive. So it's a degree we already offer that could benefit many in the local area who are looking for that next step in their professional development.
And something, going back now to earlier, we were talking about the affordability of college, things like that, and that's something that, if you look at culture as a whole and conversations that are being had throughout the country, we see this question being raised of, is college worth it? Is going to pursue a degree, a four-year degree, worth it? Is it going to create better jobs? Is it going to pay off in the long run? And that brings up a question, I think, especially for private institutions that are looking for increased enrollment and oftentimes associated with a higher price tag.
Right.
There's more, though, that happens than just what's in the classroom. When you hear these conversations being brought up of, is college worth it? Obviously, it's a generalized question because it's going to be a personalized answer. But what is your response to that when you hear people questioning, is that going to be worth the experience and the money?
Yeah, right away I start out and say, if you want to achieve the American dream in today's economy, you need a bachelor's degree. There's economic research out there that shows that's the fact. It's unfortunate but our economy has transformed itself into a knowledge economy where to get the jobs that pay the salaries and provide the income to buy a house and live the American dream require a bachelor's degree. And my job is to make that as affordable as possible so students graduate with as little debt as possible so they can achieve that dream as soon as they can in their professional careers. So I'm working hard, right now I'm working the student debt loan, realizing that we have a system that actually encourages students to take on loans. The federal loan system, the way it works is by default they get the maximum amount, but they may not need the maximum amount, but they have to cross out that number and write in the amount they actually want to borrow. And so what I'm discovering is a lot of students, when they go to college, they don't understand that game of loans and debt and how it impacts your life. And so trying to minimize the debt, providing work opportunities that provide an income while you're in college, so that students can achieve the American dream. That's what we all grew up with. Our parents provided us with that. What our country needs to worry about, though, are those that we're leaving behind. We have to provide opportunities for people. There are other careers that do not require a bachelor's degree that can lead to the American dream, but they also requires professional training and certification to move forward. Those opportunities are there. So I don't want everybody just to focus on a bachelor's degree, but there are other training opportunities. But we live in an economy where you need a skill to be successful.
Sure. And beyond the classroom, of course, UGF provides that opportunity to get a various number of degrees and training.
Exactly.
Comes the student life aspect of it, which is offered at many institutions. We often look at private institutions, again, where that faith aspect can come in, where you can have some of those conversations that are different than public institutions. To me, I come from a background where I attended a private university, and that student life component was big in my life and helping create who I am today. How do you see the role of the student life component, the things that happen beyond just in the classroom at UGF specifically?
I'm like you. I believe student life is a critical aspect of the college experience. In fact, there's research shows that some of the most important learning events happen in the co-curricular experience of college. And it's interesting, in higher ed, we're not very intentional about that experience. We're very intentional about the academic curriculum, but not about the co-curriculum. It's always been my passion, obviously with my background, that I see the co-curricular environment of the students is really where the leadership development occurs. So what I'm going to work with at UGF is trying to make that student life experience an intentional, systematic leadership and career readiness development program. Everything that a student does, from clubs to choir to field trips to everything, can contribute to their leadership development. So when they graduate, they're really to make a significant contribution in their first job experience.
So let's switch gears now to Argo Athletics. Also starting on July 1st was a new athletic director. It was the first time we'd had that since about 2 years ago when that spot was vacated. 2 different coaches in the interim have been filling that spot. Looking forward to this next school year with athletics, getting a new leader of that department. What are your hopes for the athletic department this year?
They're big,
Yeah.
long term. I'm excited about having Dave Gant as one of the things I did. I made him a vice president, more than just an athletic director, to signify the importance of athletics to the college experience. Again, I talked about leadership development. To me, athletics is the best leadership development laboratory we've created. It's not just about winning and playing the sport. There's life lessons to be learned on the field or on the court. But I'm excited about Dave. He's coached at the highest levels. He's a UGF alum. He's been part of the Olympic program, so we're bringing someone that really has the experience, and he wants to leave a legacy. And we live in a culture today that loves athletics. We love sport. We love going to games and watching. What I would hope in the future is that UGF becomes the Great Falls University that everybody gets behind and becomes an Argo fan, and they come to our events. We'll be adding sports and teams. We don't know what yet, but we will be growing athletics over the next several years. And that's what I've tasked Dave to do. I said, come up with a plan. What do we do? Right now he's working on some things just to get what we have now working a little better. And then once he gets that foundation going, we're going to be adding sports. And along that lines, we have to, because of Title IX, we really want to focus on the opportunities for women too. So we'll be adding not only men's sports, but women's sports as we expand the athletic opportunities. And we hope everybody at Great Falls at some point will love to come to our UGF events and become our biggest fans.
Sure. All right, and we have just a little bit of time left here, so let's focus on the school year that's ahead, starting in just a few weeks. Talk to me about what that's going to look like for new students that are coming in and for you as new president going into the school year.
Yeah, it's going to be a transition year for UGF, obviously with the new president, but we're looking at everything. We put everything on the table. We realize that this is a new chapter for UGF going forward, and we're exploring all kinds of opportunities to really set ourselves apart from our competition moving forward. So we're sort of, there are no sacred elephants in the room anymore. What the things do we need to do to be a successful institution moving forward? And we need to have those difficult conversations. Just because you've done it in the past doesn't mean you should be doing it moving forward. And what type of new things can we do to really signify that we're entering a new chapter of the success of the University of Great Falls?
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We certainly appreciate your time, and we welcome you to the Great Falls community and Montana as a whole.
Thank you, Shannon. It's been a pleasure.
All right. We've been talking with Dr. Anthony Aretz, the new UGF president here in Great Falls, and how he plans to move the university forward in this coming school year. This has been another edition of Face the State. I'm Shannon Newth. Have a great Sunday.
You've been watching